Welcome to Health, Wealth, and Happiness, a fast-paced, informative hour-long program dealing with physical, emotional, and mental health issues, consumer information, and money management, as well as the arts, theater, travel, entertainment, social, and civic events. Brought to you by the University of South Carolina School of Medicine Specialty Clinics, the Institute for Partnerships to Eliminate Health Disparities, the Newberry Opera House, the South Carolina Philharmonic, supplements manufacturer A.J. Lanigan, Leon Jones Insurance, and the Mitchell House and Gardens. And now, here's the host of Health, Wealth, and Happiness, Gary Posick.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Health, Wealth, and Happiness. Here's a rundown of today's program. My first guest joins us via the phone as he does the fourth Wednesday of every month. He's the owner of ScoreNavigator.com. He's Rusty Brzee. And today we're going to talk about a couple of things that have been in the news. Well, one, for the past 6 weeks, it's checking your monthly credit card voucher because, as you well know, those people who use their credit cards at Target during the Christmas holiday shopping season are in jeopardy of having their credit information and their credit card used by those who hack the system. It's guesstimated that a 17-year-old kid from Russia is the culprit. How many people has this affected? Well, on paper, millions. How many have actually been violated? We don't know, and nobody is talking about that. Also, Neiman Marcus customers are also involved with this. Probably a different market of people, but nonetheless. Another thing that's happened in the news since Rusty was on last, Discover is now putting a credit score on the bottom of their voucher that they send out every month to their customers. We'll talk with Rusty. What's that all about? Is it helpful information? And how does that affect the customer? From 1:30 to 1:45 each Wednesday, Don Schaefer joins us. He's a travel expert. He's been doing a travel show on the radio in the greater Mountain State area for a long time, and he's from Salt Lake City. And today he's going to talk about travel changes as we get older. And my final guest of the day will be the conductor of the Lake Murray Symphony that will be in joint concert with the USC Symphony tomorrow evening at the Koger Center at 7:30. He's Dr. Einar Anderson, and I hope you'll stay tuned for the entire program. I think we're a pretty good program on tap for today, and welcome back, Rusty Brzee. Good to have you here.
Glad to be back, Gary.
No doubt about the fact that Target has gotten a lot of print and a lot of time on radio and television. I don't know that it's positive, and I'm not so sure that it's all necessarily their fault or a breach of their security, but the fact of the matter is that I don't know how many customers, but it's guesstimated that some close to 1 million customers who shopped Target during the holiday season from about mid-November through late December are in jeopardy, at least on paper, of having their credit card information used by those people who are really just out to buy things using a credit card that doesn't belong to them.
Yeah, it's not so much just the credit information from the ones from Target, Gary. What the key information they got was the people's, of course, their name, their email addresses, their addresses, their phone numbers, and so they're able to use that information in order to obtain even more information. You know, there's only certain criteria you need to get a credit report, either by calling numbers on the phone or going online to get it. And then once they have your credit file, that's where they go and they replicate and they start new credit in other areas, and you wind up buying things that you didn't even know you were buying and getting loans and getting money that you didn't even know you were doing.
Can people who do this for a living, can they get that information and then go out and get additional credit cards using your name and your information?
Yeah, they sure can, because by having that information, then they're able to go in and access more inside the online sites. So if I've got your credit card information and I've got your name, email address, I can go to, we'll say Target.com or whatever, and go in and utilize that to get your social, to get more information inside of those contents, and then you go from there into applying and getting a copy of the report. Because a lot of these hackers, they want to see the report first. And so they can see what you already do have and what you can get based upon your credit. And then they go out and they apply and they set it up, different other things going on in order to get more information. First of all, I want to say something for this too, Gary. It's like, a lot of blame is going to Target, and Target's just as much the victim as the consumers are. We cannot help it in life that there are people that are out there that do terrible things, whether it's a 17-year-old in Russia or whether it's the guy down the street trying to break into your neighbor's garage to steal a lawnmower or something. But what Target's doing is they're at least taking responsibility. They're not pointing their finger at the hackers. What they've done is they've gone in and they are at least offering a 12-month free monitoring of your credit. Now, that's great that they're stepping up, but I can tell the listeners that's just not going to be enough. You've got to be proactive. If you shopped at Target between Thanksgiving and what Gary said, the Christmas holidays, you used your card, or you didn't even use your card, just during that period of time, if you were a card member, it's your responsibility now to go online, get a copy of your credit report, check and see what other kind of activity and stuff has been done, and then take matters into your own hand. Don't hire people out to do it for you, or just assume that, Target's going to be able to handle 70 million people on their credit, what could be their credit issues. Because again, like you said earlier, Gary, we don't know the number of people that were actually affected by it. It could be humongous.
I would guess that if a hacker used your credit card multiple times and rang up $4,000 or $5,000 worth of a purchase, well, you would certainly be aware of that. But it would seem to me, if I were a hacker and I just bought a purchase of maybe one purchase during the Christmas holiday season of a couple of $100, it might be overlooked. It could very easily, especially if you've used your credit card to make purchases of $1,100-$1,200, and you get your bill for that period of time. Unless you check, you might just think, well, that's about what I spent. Yeah, $1,200, $1,500. That's pretty much in keeping. So it does pay to go through item by item to make sure that everything that is on that voucher, in fact, is something that you have purchased with your credit card.
Yeah, you absolutely have to do that. And the best way to do it is to actually set yourself up, your account online. One of the things that people do, when you go online, they'll ask you to put in maybe 3 questions with identifiable answers. And we always seem to pick the easiest things, which high school did we go to? What was our, first car? What's your oldest niece's name? And other people may know that information. So I suggest when you go in and you set up your online account that you can put those questions, but put ridiculous answer. Even if you put the same answer all the way down the line, what was your favorite dog's name? Camaro. What high school did you go to? Camaro. What is your niece's name? Camaro. Something that's not going to be related to that, so people don't figure out what your pattern is. But when you go on and you set up for online stuff, Gary, you can put in for alerts. Like what I do with my son, we've talked about how I've helped him establish credit, and his high credit score, he's in the high 700s. But anytime he uses his credit card, I get the alert. I know if there's been a charge over $20 being made on any credit card at any given time. It goes straight to my phone, so I'm aware of what's going on. Now, I do that to track and help him out with managing his credit, but I also do that as a consumer. So I know if I set certain limits that I know if somebody has my credit card number, whether they use it online or they copied my number from a restaurant or anywhere, then I get an alert and it tells me my card's being used. And I know if I haven't used it, I'm on the phone with the credit card company and I'm doing something about it.
How do you get that alert? Because I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people listening to this program who have kids in college who say, God, how do I get that alert? I want to know what my kid is spending and where.
Absolutely. Well, you just do it. When I go on to, like even with Target, you can go on with Target and you have certain ways that you can receive a bill by email, by text, by regular mail, but they also have other options that are in there where you can put down if my balance gets to this level, if when is my payment due, can I be alerted 7 days, 10 days, so I make sure my payment's being taken care of, which, I always tell people, make sure that you have it set up each month that at least your minimum payment is being drafted from your account so you never get that, I just missed my payment and you lose 60 or 70 points. But it also has a part in there, and most of these creditors have that, where if there's a charge over a certain amount, that you get an alert, and then you're aware of it. Even if you put it down as $3, so that way you're getting an alert each time your credit card's being used. But you set it at a certain number, and you're able to do that when you go online and you set up and you register, you activate your credit card. And you have those options. So look for those options inside of there. It's in the part where it asks about your billing, how you want to receive your statement. If you want it paperless or if you want it text or regular mail.
When preparing for the show, and I talked with Rusty about security and how to avoid this kind of problem, I used myself as an example, and I said, it's interesting. I made a purchase online, and within an hour, I got a call from the security division of MasterCard calling me up to verify that I had made this purchase. And Rusty said, maybe it wasn't MasterCard at all. And I never thought that it wasn't. I mean, I was like a lamb led to slaughter on this one. Explain that, if you will.
Yeah, I will, Gary, and I'm glad that we do have these discussions that we talk about this. I can assure you, because I made a few phone calls after we spoke, and MasterCard absolutely did not call you. What may have called you was hopefully, was the merchant account that particular shop had, and because they may have had some issues with what we call chargebacks when a individual makes a charge on something and then they dispute it, then it's charged back to that merchant account, and maybe they were not sending what it was that they said they were sending to everybody. And so the merchant account itself, the vendor for that, was the one that probably called you and wanted to make sure of your order. I'm hoping it was that and not somebody that's just phishing that gets that information online. When you went in and you ordered it online, somebody else captured it, that information. And did you ever get your cigars?
I did.
Okay, good. And so you're pretty well safe on that. If you didn't get your cigars, then I would be really concerned and you go back. But let me tell you, whenever I do, and because we're used to the internet and we do go on and we do give information and I do buy stuff online, I always go back in and log into my credit card company and I check and make sure that charge was the exact charge that I agreed to and who was the company that was actually taking the money. And I do that. I'm just that kind of guy. That's maybe why I'm in the credit industry, Gary, as I watch all of that. And those are programs and stuff that we built inside of our company to teach people to spend a little bit of extra time. A little bit of extra time will save you, it could save you thousands and thousands of dollars in headaches over the long haul.
Well, see, you know the ins and outs. I just assumed that it truly was MasterCard that was calling and was on top of this and was checking and was protecting me And you said probably not. They were either fishing for information about you, or it was a protection on the part of the vendor you dealt with, had nothing at all to do with you and your protection.
Yeah, MasterCard just doesn't have the facility or the time to call to check on every purchase or spot check purchases. They don't care. They absolutely don't care. They make their money from the percentages that the merchants are being charged, and the money goes that way. They make a little bit off of a lot of people on every transaction.
Well, let's go back to the Target purchases and those people. And one thing we don't know, there's been a lot of coverage about how many people had information that was supposedly taken, but we don't know how many people actually had purchases made against their account. But let's say that you were one of those unfortunate people that somebody hacked you and did make multiple purchases. Are you responsible for that? If you call up your credit card company and you say, I've been hacked, I am a Target customer, but I can assure you that there are 6 items that I did not purchase. What happens?
Well, that's a good question. You can dispute that to them, and then it's up to them, to kind of guess whether or not you were hacked or you're just hacking them. I'll give you an example. We did go to Target Saturday, my wife and I, and the children, and she handed me her Target card. I don't have a Target card. I've never applied for one, but she does because she wanted that 5% discount every time she used the card. She hands me the card. I swipe the card while she's putting the items into the cart. The lady at the register never asked who I was. I signed her name on it, and we walked out the door. She never looked at the card, never questioned me, never did anything. And so one of the things that I've asked my credit card companies to do, and they will do it, is I've asked them to make sure that somebody asks for my ID whenever I use my card at a register. And if I go through the register and they don't, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to question them about it. And unfortunately, those are some of the things, and people might say it's a hassle. Oh, man, I had to show my license. I had to do this and that. Well, I'd rather that happen than somebody else out using
you
my
bet. I've never,
card.
ever been upset about showing my ID. If you've got nothing to hide, if you're doing nothing wrong, why would you be upset about having to show your ID?
Absolutely. And so those are some of the precautions that I take. It takes a little bit of time, but you get it done that way, and then it takes a little bit of time. But you know what? It doesn't cost you any money to do it.
No, absolutely not. So, getting back to, I got my bill, and there are 6 items on there amounting to $1,200 that, by golly, I didn't make any of those purchases. What do I do?
You've got to prove it. When you've got to call back to Target and through their hotline, and you've got to prove that you did not make those purchases. And it'll be pretty easy because the charges are going to be done on online stuff. They're going to see that the stuff wasn't shipped to your address or you didn't pick it up at the store, because you would have to show some sort of identification to pick it up. So you're going to be covered. The Target people don't need to worry about the charges that are going to go onto the Target card, because, Gary, that's not where the big problem is. The big problem is the data that's attached to that. So once they were able to hack that information, they hacked your personal information. And so they do have your social. They do have that information. So your concern is not going to be if somebody charged, $1,200 at Target, because that's a very unlikely thing to happen. You have to be worried about that now they've recreated another credit file with your information, and they're going out getting loans and getting other things and moving money around in your name. That's going to come back and get attached to your credit file, and you're going to spend forever trying to get that mess straightened out.
Yeah, because they may not do it right now, but once they have your social and have all your vital information, it is identity theft waiting to happen. They can pull the trigger on that at this year, next month, 2 weeks from now, whenever they choose.
They're selling it. They're selling the information. Just like when you apply for credit, when the credit bureaus sell your data information to the auto industry, the mortgage industry, they're called trigger leads, and then people send you things you get in the mail, these mailers, these flyers, and you get people soliciting you. They don't just come out of nowhere. They came from lists. And so these hackers are selling those lists out to other people, and those are the ones that will go in and recreate who you are and get loans and get things set up into the credit bureau. It's real easy to do. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to do it. I mean, obviously a 17-year-old and possibly in Russia's, got the information to pass on.
Speaking of rocket science, I'm sure you saw this yesterday. It was in the news. This is hard to believe. The number one do never use password in the United States last year was 123456. I can't believe that people were using that as a password. And of course, that's the one that is most easily hacked by people who are going in trying to figure out what your password is. And so they're putting in 123456 first. And most often that, in fact, ends up being your password. So, word to the wise, if that's your password, change it.
If your password's password. I mean, a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of that up last year was the number one. The year before last, 2012, password was the number one password. This past year, 2013, it was 123456. So
we just can't remember our stuff, Gary. You got 12 accounts and you're logging into this and you're logging into that, and you don't remember, so you just try to come up with the simplest thing. And I guess a lot of people think of the same simplest things, and so it's real easy to steal, isn't it?
I guess. I'm sorry. If that's the best you can do, you're wide open. It's like, and I will admit this is how things have changed. I can remember, and I'm guilty of this, so I'm going to dumb me. I can remember having on my checking account my name, my address, and my Social Security number. See, it made it real easy, Rusty. When I want to make it easy to cash my check. Here's my name, here's my address, here's my telephone number, and here's my Social Security number. I had it on my check.
Listen, the driver's license, there's a lot of states, and they're probably still that way, that your Social Security number is your driver's license number. And so you would put your driver's license number on the check, so you didn't have to bring it out when they asked you, what's your driver's license number? And people were getting their identity stolen straight from that.
Absolutely.
There's more smart people out there stealing than the not so smart like us that have to really work hard in order to protect who we are and what we're doing.
And I don't know anything at all about the sophistication of computers, but by God, if a 17-year-old kid can figure it out, can't be too sophisticated. When we come back out of break, we're going to talk about a service. I guess it's a service that's being offered to discover credit card holders. But my question is it really a service?
Heart disease, joint pain, allergies, eye care. The list of health needs we're faced with goes on and on. But it's comforting to know there is one healthcare practice in the Midlands with the expertise to take complete care of you. University Specialty Clinics. Only at University Specialty Clinics will you find a team of 200 doctors who are expert physicians and world-class medical educators. Whether you need a simple physical exam or need complete complex medical treatment, you can trust the doctors at University Specialty Clinics to take special care of you for life. Call 255-3400 for an appointment. That number again, 255-3400. University Specialty Clinics is owned and operated by the University of South Carolina School of Medicine, where we practice what we teach.
A policy is taking care of South Carolina. Beyond Jones Insurance. We're from South Carolina like you, neighbors and friends through and through. Our policy is taking the time to give you the service you expect to find. Our policy is taking care of South Carolina. Leon Jones Insurance.
With locations in Columbia and Batesburg, Leesville, call 790-5600. That's 790-5600 for a quote. When credit scoring was introduced into the marketplace in the mid-'90s, who really knew the impact it would have on our lives today? The 3-digit number determines the rate of financing we get on our home and auto loans, insurance rates, and even employment. But do you know how your credit score is calculated, and is it accurate? Do you know what to do to raise your credit score or change errors in your credit report? ScoreNavigator.com at just $19.95 a month not only gives you the most accurate credit score in the industry, it will tell you how to increase your credit score. Listen to information about you and your credit on the fourth Wednesday of the month from 1 to 1:30 right here on Health, Wealth, and Happiness. And that's today, and the owner of the company, Rusty Brzee, is my guest. About a month ago, I saw an ad, and I've seen it many times since, for Discover Card, basically letting its customers know, letting the whole world know that if you have a Discover Card, they are putting on the bottom of their monthly voucher that lists all of your expenditures on their card, your credit score. Good idea? Bad idea?
Well, it's good if you like the number. It's bad because, you know, in anything, Gary, to me, it's a marketing ploy. FICO wants to put their score out, and this score is coming from, I want to say, Experian. And Experian is a good promoter of Vantage Score. And there's nothing wrong with Vantage Score. That's just another algorithm that goes as high as a 990 score, where the regular Beacon score, Fair Isaac scores go to a 850 score. So it kind of gives you a higher score, but there's just not a lot of businesses yet that are using that in the marketplace. The Vantage score goes from like a 501 to a 990, I believe. So they're putting the score there. Now, the credit card provider, Gary, is by law now, when you apply for credit for whatever decision was made, whether you got accepted or you didn't, they're required now through FACTA, F-A-C-T-A, in order to supply you with what score was used in what bureau in order to make that decision whether or not you're going to get credit. But you and I have discussed, you know, on several occasions that the scores that are being provided from these organizations are not the real score. So, but if that is wrong, the score's not right.
And so, literally, this is an example of you can't take that score that you're getting off the bottom of your Discover Card bill to the bank, because it ain't going to be recognized by the bank, because they're not going to use that number. They're going to go in and get the straight scoop, the one that you use, for example.
Absolutely. And what they should do, if they want to be more of a benefit to the consumer, is when they send you your statement, they should show you, here's your high credit, here's the balance you're carrying, and based upon this balance to high credit, it's costing you 12 points off your credit score for having this balance to this. Now, if your balance was this, it may only cost you 5 points. Or if you had a balance of this, it may not cost you any points. But what would that do, Gary? That would make them customers that would pay their accounts off every month.
Of course.
Keep it at a certain percentage.
They don't want that.
That's exactly right. But if they say, don't worry about it, based upon you charging and using our card, you still have a 700 and something score, even though in reality it may be, you know, a 740 score for Advantage may be 630 score through the regular scoring algorithm.
The unfortunate thing is that when we talk, we've been talking for several months now, there's always new information, and the whole industry I'm sorry, Rusty, but the whole damn industry relies upon ignorance. And what a way to run a ship. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. And what you've tried to do with ScoreNavigator.com is clear all that up and provide people with a straight scoop so that they're getting the same information as any potential creditor would get, so that you're singing from the same songbook.
Well, we're actually singing for a way that the creditors not necessarily want people to know. And it's not that they don't want them to know. They haven't taken the time to listen to what we're saying. Some are. I'm watching a lot of trends change. I'm watching some trends change inside the credit bureaus themselves. We've got programs that were built based upon the real credit data, real credit situations, and those programs don't lie. They pinpoint, they show it, and that's what we provide to people in ScoreNavigator. That's what we provide to people in Credit DNA and other software and products that we work with in the financial institutions as well as just the credit industry.
The deal is, for $19.95, you don't have to do this every month. You can do it 1 month and find out exactly what your credit score is, and with that, correct data about what makes up those three numbers. Because you've educated me about one thing. It ain't the number, it's the data that makes up the number.
Absolutely, Gary.
Not a play on words here. It's not about the number. Everybody focuses on the number, but that ain't about the number. It's about the data.
Because they sell that number, Gary. They sell that number in our mind to buy stuff for the number, and the hackers look for that number. So they look for it because they don't know any difference. You know, you got an option. You got to work hard to keep your credit managed, keep an eye on it, make sure that you've taken all the precautions, or you just don't pay anybody, and then your credit rating's really bad, and then when the hackers get it, they sell that list for less money to an organization that might want to wait 7 years till it cleans itself up. I don't know.
What a way to do business.
I know.
For those people who want the straight information and really find out where their credit is and what the information is out there, they can go to ScoreNavigator.com, look it over, sign up, and for less than $20, find out exactly where they stand. And I thank you so much for coming and sharing on Health, Wealth, and Happiness.